Chosen one, listen carefully. What I'm about to share is not a motivational message, and it is not for everyone. This is a divine announcement, and it is meant only for those who are truly walking the path God has set before them. If someone is not aligned with God, not serious about their spiritual journey, they will feel disconnected and leave. And that is exactly how it is meant to be. But if you are here, understand this clearly. This message reached you at the exact right moment. Not early, not late. This is the time of fulfillment, and God is calling you to focus now. What you have been waiting for is no longer distant. It is unfolding, but it requires your attention, not your anxiety. Chosen one, this is not a season of chasing or forcing. This is a season of alignment and awareness. Fulfillment does not arrive with chaos. It arrives with clarity. And today, God wants to steady your mind and sharpen your focus so you don't miss what is already beginning. Stay with me until the end, because what I will share will help you recognize what God is doing right now and how to remain centered as fulfillment takes shape in your life. Before we continue, chosen ones, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the Spirit Guide channel if you haven't already, tap the bell icon, and share this message with other chosen ones who need this word today. And comment 555 in the comments as a sign that you are aligned with divine movement, focus, and the season of fulfillment God has entered you into.
What time of fulfillment truly means spiritually. Chosen one, when you hear the phrase time of fulfillment, your mind may immediately race toward outcomes, results, visible answers, completed prayers. That is natural. But spiritually speaking, fulfillment does not begin where most people expect it to begin. It does not start with what you see. It starts with what settles. Fulfillment is not the moment everything suddenly happens. Fulfillment is the moment everything finally aligns. Many believers misunderstand fulfillment because they associate it with arrival rather than readiness. They think fulfillment means the end of waiting, but in God's design, fulfillment means the end of striving. It is the shift from pushing to positioning, from chasing to receiving, from anxiety to assurance. When God says this is a time of fulfillment, He is not announcing chaos or urgency. He is announcing stability. He is saying that the internal work has reached a point where external unfolding can now occur without destroying your peace. You see, God does not fulfill promises just because time has passed. He fulfills them when alignment has matured. Some of you spent years praying for something you weren't yet ready to hold. Not because you lacked faith, but because fulfillment requires capacity. A promise fulfilled without capacity becomes a burden. God is merciful enough to wait until fulfillment becomes a blessing instead of pressure. Spiritually, fulfillment means this: your inner world is now able to support what God wants to release. Your discernment is sharper. Your emotional reactions are calmer. Your faith is steadier. You no longer need constant reassurance to keep moving forward. That is fulfillment beginning from the inside. Another important truth you must hear is this: fulfillment does not erase all uncertainty. It replaces panic with trust. You may still not know every detail. You may still not see the full picture, but you no longer feel rushed to figure it all out. That sense of rest is not laziness, it is spiritual maturity. Many chosen ones mistakenly believe that fulfillment should feel dramatic, loud, overwhelming. But God often fulfills quietly, so you don't mistake excitement for confirmation. Emotional highs fade quickly. Alignment lasts. If this is truly your time of fulfillment, you may notice something surprising. Your desire to force outcomes has decreased. You still care. You are still committed. But the desperation is gone. That is not loss of passion. That is trust settling in. Fulfillment also brings simplicity. Complicated desires begin to fall away. You become clearer about what matters and what does not. You stop wanting everything and start valuing what aligns. That clarity is part of fulfillment. Another misunderstanding many people have is that fulfillment must look like success as the world defines it. But God's fulfillment often looks like peace before it looks like progress, emotional wholeness before visible achievement, stability before expansion. This is why some of you feel calmer even though nothing major has changed externally yet. That calm is not stagnation, it is fulfillment forming its foundation. God does not rush fulfillment because fulfillment sustains. It is not a burst, it is a state. When fulfillment comes, it remains because it is built on alignment, not adrenaline. Let me also correct something gently. Fulfillment does not mean every prayer is answered exactly the way you imagined. It means every answer now works together for your good. Some prayers are fulfilled by redirection, some by delay, some by transformation of desire itself, and that transformation is often the greatest fulfillment of all. Chosen one, you may have noticed that certain things you once wanted no longer excite you. That is not disappointment, that is refinement. God fulfilled you internally so you would stop settling externally. Fulfillment also brings discernment about timing. You no longer feel pressured to act just because something is possible. You act when something is aligned. That patience is not fear, it is wisdom. This season is not about accumulation, it is about integration. God is integrating what you have learned, what you have healed from, and what you have become. Fulfillment is the moment your growth starts working together instead of pulling you in different directions. You may still have challenges. Fulfillment does not eliminate responsibility, but it removes internal resistance. You stop fighting yourself. You stop doubting every step. You move forward with steadiness instead of strain. That is spiritual fulfillment. Some of you expected fulfillment to feel like relief from effort. Instead, it feels like clarity within effort. You are still showing up, but it no longer drains you the same way. That is because fulfillment does not remove purpose. It stabilizes it. Let me say this clearly. If God says this is a time of fulfillment, it means you are no longer preparing to become ready. You are ready enough for the next phase to begin unfolding naturally. Naturally does not mean instantly. Fulfillment unfolds. It does not explode. And that is why focus is now required, not to force fulfillment, but to remain aligned with it. Distraction is the enemy of fulfillment, not delay. In the next part, I will help you understand why God is asking for focus now, and why narrowing your attention is not restriction, but protection for what is being fulfilled in your life. Stay with me. What you're stepping into is steady, intentional, and divinely timed. Why focus is required before fulfillment manifests. Chosen one, focus is not about pressure. It is about clarity. And clarity is always required before fulfillment can take form in your life. God does not ask for focus because he wants to restrict you. He asks for focus because fulfillment needs protection while it unfolds. When something precious is forming, it must be guarded from unnecessary interference. That is why distraction becomes dangerous at this stage. Not because distraction is sinful, but because it scatters energy. And fulfillment requires integration, not fragmentation. Many people believe focus means intensity, constant effort, pushing harder. That is not spiritual focus. Spiritual focus is the ability to stay centered without becoming consumed. It is the discipline of keeping your attention aligned with truth instead of reacting to every thought, emotion, or external stimulus. Right now, God is narrowing your attention for a reason. You may have noticed that your tolerance for noise has decreased. Conversations that once felt stimulating now feel draining. Activities that once entertained you now feel empty. That is not boredom. That is discernment sharpening. God is gently pulling you away from what dilutes your awareness. Focus is required because fulfillment often unfolds quietly. Loud minds miss subtle movements. A distracted spirit overlooks alignment. When God moves softly, focus becomes the way you recognize his hand at work. This is why overthinking can interfere with fulfillment. Overthinking creates urgency where none exists. It makes you analyze instead of observe. It turns guidance into pressure. Focus, on the other hand, creates stillness, and stillness allows clarity to surface naturally. Let me say something important. Focus does not mean ignoring life. It means engaging with life intentionally, choosing what deserves your attention and releasing what does not. Some of you are being asked to focus not on outcomes, but on alignment, not on speed, but on stability, not on comparison, but on presence. God is teaching you to remain where your feet are, not where your fears project you. Focus also protects you from emotional exhaustion. When your attention is scattered, your energy drains quickly. When your attention is focused, your energy stabilizes. That stability allows fulfillment to develop without burnout. You may feel tempted right now to multitask spiritually, to pray while worrying, to trust while planning every possible outcome. That divided state creates internal conflict. Focus invites wholeness. God is not asking you to abandon responsibility. He is asking you to simplify your awareness, to reduce mental noise, to stop feeding every thought equally. Focus is selective nourishment for the mind and spirit. Another reason focus is required is because fulfillment brings responsibility. When God fulfills something in your life, it must be stewarded. Focus trains you to steward what is coming, to recognize what matters, to maintain balance. Some chosen ones lose fulfillment quickly because they never learned focus. They receive answers, blessings, clarity, but their attention remains scattered. They become overwhelmed instead of anchored. God wants you anchored. Focus also deepens trust. When you focus, you stop searching constantly for confirmation. You stop needing signs for every step. You begin to recognize guidance internally. That inner guidance is quieter but more reliable. You may notice that your mind is being called to slow down, that you are being invited to rest your thoughts rather than race them. That is not lack of ambition. That is preparation for sustainability. Focus helps you stay present while fulfillment unfolds gradually. If you are always looking ahead, you miss what is forming now. And fulfillment is often built in stages that require patience to notice. Let me address distraction honestly. Distraction often feels productive. It feels like movement, but movement without direction creates exhaustion. Focus creates direction without strain. Some of you have been distracted by other people's timelines, other people's testimonies, other people's progress. Comparison pulls focus away from alignment. God's fulfillment for you will not look exactly like someone else's, and trying to monitor both paths creates confusion. Focus also requires emotional discipline, not suppression. Awareness. You don't ignore emotions, but you don't let them drive either. You acknowledge them, then return to center. That emotional regulation is a spiritual skill. This is why God may be asking you to reduce certain inputs right now. Less noise, less opinion, less consumption, more presence, more stillness, more listening. Fulfillment does not require constant activity. It requires consistent alignment. You may feel an urge to simplify your schedule, your commitments, or your environment. Honor that urge. Simplification creates space. Space allows fulfillment to breathe. Focus is not narrowing your life. It is clarifying it. As fulfillment approaches, God removes unnecessary layers, not to deprive you, but to protect what is forming. You are not losing interest in life. You are refining your engagement with it. And here is something important. Focus also prevents sabotage. When fulfillment begins to manifest, doubt may try to resurface. Old habits may try to reclaim attention. Focus keeps you grounded in what God is doing now, not what you fear repeating. You don't need to monitor fulfillment constantly. That creates anxiety. Focus is relaxed attentiveness, not surveillance. Stay aware without tension. In the next part, I will help you recognize the signs that you have already entered the fulfillment phase, even if it doesn't look dramatic yet. Many chosen ones overlook these signs because they expect fulfillment to announce itself. Stay present. What God is doing is subtle, intentional, and already in motion. Signs you have entered the fulfillment phase. Chosen one, fulfillment rarely announces itself the way people expect. It does not always arrive with fireworks, sudden breakthroughs, or dramatic changes. More often, it arrives quietly, marked by subtle internal shifts that signal you are now ready to receive what God has been preparing. If you are attentive, you can recognize the signs. One of the first signs you have entered the fulfillment phase is a sense of calm that does not depend on circumstances. Things may not be perfect yet. Some questions may still be unanswered, but the panic that once lived in your thoughts has softened. You feel steadier, less reactive, more anchored. That calm is not indifference. It is trust taking root. Another sign is a reduced need to explain yourself. You no longer feel compelled to justify your choices, your pace, or your path. You understand that alignment does not require approval. This inner confidence is not arrogance, it is clarity. Fulfillment begins when you stop performing and start resting in who you are. You may also notice a growing detachment from outcomes. This does not mean you stopped caring, it means you stopped clinging. You do your part, but you release the need to control how and when things unfold. That release is a sign of maturity, and maturity is always present when fulfillment begins. Discernment becomes sharper in this phase. You sense more clearly what aligns and what does not. Certain opportunities no longer excite you simply because they are available. You feel drawn to what brings peace, not what brings attention. Fulfillment redirects desire toward alignment. Another sign is emotional regulation. Situations that once triggered intense reactions now pass with less disturbance. You still feel emotions, but they no longer overwhelm you. You recover faster. You reflect instead of react. This emotional steadiness is evidence that your inner foundation has strengthened. You may also notice a desire for simplicity. You crave less noise, fewer distractions, and more intentional living. This is not withdrawal, it is refinement. God often simplifies life during fulfillment so that what matters can be sustained. Fulfillment also brings a shift in how you view waiting. Waiting no longer feels like punishment. It feels purposeful. You understand that unfolding takes time and that rushing would disrupt what is forming. That patience is not passive. It is confident. Another sign is increased self-awareness without self-criticism. You notice your patterns more clearly, but you don't judge yourself harshly for them. You correct gently. You grow without condemnation. This compassionate awareness is a hallmark of spiritual fulfillment. You may find that your prayers have changed. They are less desperate and more honest, less about asking for signs and more about staying aligned. You pray from trust rather than urgency. That shift indicates deeper connection. There is also a subtle sense of closure that begins to appear. Old wounds feel less sharp. Past disappointments lose their emotional charge. You don't need everything to make sense to move forward. That emotional resolution is part of fulfillment. Fulfillment often brings a quieter confidence. You don't announce it. You don't need to convince anyone. You simply know where you stand. This confidence allows you to move at your own pace without anxiety. Another sign is reduced comparison. You stop measuring your progress against others. Their journey no longer threatens or distracts you. You trust that your path is unique and that fulfillment honors that uniqueness. You may also feel guided to protect your energy more intentionally. You become selective with conversations, commitments, and environments. This is not selfishness, it is stewardship. Fulfillment requires care. Let me say something important. If you expected fulfillment to feel like constant excitement, you might miss it. Fulfillment often feels like relief, like coming home to yourself, like no longer fighting internally. That sense of internal coherence is a powerful sign. You might also notice that you are less interested in proving your faith and more interested in living it. You don't need constant reassurance that God is with you. You trust His presence even in silence. Fulfillment does not eliminate challenges, but it changes how you face them. You respond with clarity instead of confusion, with patience instead of panic, with faith instead of force. Some of you may feel like life has slowed down recently. That is not stagnation. That is integration. God is allowing things to settle so they can support what comes next. If you recognize yourself in these signs, take comfort. You are not waiting for fulfillment to begin. You are already in it. In the next part, I will help you understand why God waited until now to bring you into this phase, and how the timing of fulfillment reveals His care rather than His delay. Stay grounded. What God is building is stable, intentional, and already taking shape. Why God waited until now? Chosen one, this is the question many carry quietly in their hearts. Why now? Why did God wait until this moment? Why not earlier, when the desire was strong, when the need felt urgent, when the prayer was first spoken? These questions are natural, and God is not offended by them. But the answer requires you to look beyond time and into preparation. God does not delay fulfillment to test your patience. He waits to protect your purpose. There were seasons in your life when you wanted fulfillment more than you were ready for it. You had faith, but you did not yet have the stability to sustain what you were asking for. And God, in His wisdom, refused to give you something that would have overwhelmed you, even if it looked like a blessing at the time. Earlier fulfillment would have come with anxiety instead of peace, pressure instead of stability, attachment instead of alignment. God saw that, even if you couldn't. You were still learning how to trust without controlling, how to listen without rushing, how to stand without proving yourself. These are not small lessons, they are foundations, and foundations take time to build. God also waited because your discernment needed to mature. If He had fulfilled certain things earlier, you might have misinterpreted the responsibility that came with them. You might have attached meaning where there was none, or missed meaning where it mattered most. Discernment is sharpened through experience, not explanation. Another reason God waited is because your identity needed strengthening. There was a time when your sense of worth was too closely tied to outcomes. Success would have defined you. Failure would have crushed you. God waited until your identity was steadier, rooted in who you are rather than what you achieve. This is not punishment. This is protection. God also waited because some desires needed refining. Not every desire you had was meant to be fulfilled as it was. Some were meant to evolve, some were meant to fall away, and some were meant to return later, purified and aligned. Think about how your desires have changed. What once felt essential now feels optional. What once felt urgent now feels premature. That shift did not happen by accident. God reshaped your desires so fulfillment would feel right, not hollow. There were also external factors God was aligning. People needed to change, situations needed to resolve, paths needed to clear. God works beyond you. His timing considers everything connected to your calling, not just your readiness. You may not see all the variables, but God does. Another reason God waited is because you were learning resilience. Not the kind that hardens, but the kind that steadies. You learned how to remain faithful without constant reward, how to keep showing up without immediate results. That endurance built depth in you. Depth is necessary for fulfillment. If God had fulfilled everything early, you might have remained shallow in certain areas. You might have avoided growth you now carry with quiet strength. God values depth more than speed. God also waited because healing needed to occur. There were wounds that had to be addressed, patterns that had to be broken, beliefs that had to be unlearned. Fulfillment does not erase wounds. It exposes them if they remain unhealed. God waited until healing had taken root. Some of you needed to learn how to receive without guilt, how to rest without fear, how to succeed without losing humility. Those lessons could not be rushed. God waited because you needed to learn how to let go of control, let go of timelines, let go of how you thought things should unfold. Surrender is not passive, it is active trust, and trust matures over time. You may also realize now that earlier fulfillment would have tied you to people or environments that no longer align. God waited so you would not have to undo what you were never meant to build. Another truth many avoid is this: God waited because you needed to learn how to be still, to listen, to discern His voice without constant signs. Fulfillment built on noise collapses. Fulfillment built on stillness stands. Waiting taught you how to listen. God's timing also reveals His care. He does not rush you into what you are not ready to steward. He does not place weight on you before your strength has developed. That care is love expressed through patience. So if you feel like your life has been unfolding slowly, understand this: slow does not mean stagnant. Slow often means intentional. God waited because He values sustainability. He wants what He gives you to last. He wants fulfillment to deepen your peace, not disrupt it. And now, because of all that has been built, healed, refined, and aligned, fulfillment can unfold without breaking you. In the next part, I will help you understand what God is asking you to focus on right now, so that this season of fulfillment continues smoothly and remains grounded in peace rather than pressure. Stay present. You are not late. You are prepared. What God is asking you to focus on right now. Chosen one, in a season of fulfillment, God does not ask for striving. He asks for focus, not frantic attention, not obsessive monitoring, but grounded, intentional awareness. What God is asking you to focus on right now is simpler than you think, yet deeper than you may realize. First, God is asking you to focus on alignment, not acceleration. You do not need to hurry what is already unfolding. Fulfillment matures best when it is not rushed. Acceleration driven by fear creates instability. Alignment driven by trust creates sustainability. God is not impressed by how fast you move. He is concerned with how steady you are. Right now, focus on staying internally aligned with peace. Peace is not passivity. Peace is clarity without panic. When something pulls you out of peace, pause. Ask yourself whether that pull is guidance or distraction. God's direction may stretch you, but it will not fracture you. God is also asking you to focus on what is within your responsibility and release what is not. Many chosen ones carry unnecessary weight by trying to manage outcomes, other people's responses, or timelines they cannot control. That mental burden interferes with fulfillment. Focus brings you back to stewardship. Do what is yours to do, and let God do what only He can do. Another area God is drawing your attention to is your inner dialogue. The way you speak to yourself matters in this season. Fulfillment grows best in an environment of encouragement, not pressure. Notice when your thoughts become harsh or demanding. Gently correct them. Replace urgency with trust. Replace self-criticism with awareness. You are not behind. You are unfolding. God is also asking you to focus on consistency over intensity. You do not need dramatic spiritual moments to stay aligned. Quiet consistency carries more power than emotional highs. Simple prayer, honest reflection, intentional rest. These are the practices that sustain fulfillment. Some of you feel tempted to do more, take on more, prove more. That impulse often comes from old patterns of earning rather than trusting. God is asking you to resist that urge. This is not a season to add unnecessary weight. It is a season to refine what already exists. Focus also means being present with your current life, not living in anticipation of what's next, but honoring what's now. Fulfillment often arrives in stages, and if you are mentally elsewhere, you miss the grace of the present stage. God is asking you to focus on listening more than speaking, not just in prayer, but in daily life. Pay attention to subtle nudges, to quiet convictions, to gentle redirections. God's guidance in fulfillment seasons is often subtle because He trusts your discernment. Another important focus right now is boundaries. Fulfillment requires protection. You may need to say no more often. You may need to limit access to your energy. This is not withdrawal, it is wisdom. God is not isolating you, He is safeguarding what is forming. Focus also includes how you respond to uncertainty. Uncertainty does not mean absence of direction, it means unfolding direction. God is asking you to stay calm in what you don't yet see, to trust the process without demanding constant reassurance. Pay attention to what brings you peace and what drains you. Peace is a signal, drain is a warning. This awareness helps you stay aligned without overthinking. God is also asking you to focus on gratitude, not forced gratitude, but honest recognition. Gratitude grounds fulfillment. It keeps you connected to what has already been given rather than anxious about what is coming next. Another area of focus is patience with yourself. You are integrating growth. Integration takes time. Do not rush your own process. Do not expect perfection. Fulfillment does not require flawlessness. It requires faithfulness. God is also asking you to focus on obedience without overanalyzing. Some steps will feel simple. Do them. Some nudges will feel small. Honor them. Fulfillment often advances through small acts of obedience, not grand gestures. Resist the urge to compare your fulfillment to others. Comparison disrupts focus quickly. Your fulfillment will unfold according to your capacity, your calling, and your timing. Stay in your lane. God meets you there. Focus also means trusting rest. Rest is not a pause in fulfillment. It is part of it. God restores you so you can receive without depletion. Allow rest without guilt. Be mindful of what you consume mentally and emotionally. Too much noise blurs focus. Choose inputs that nourish clarity. Reduce those that create agitation or confusion. God is asking you to focus on faith that is calm, not frantic. Faith that rests, not chases. Faith that listens, not demands. This kind of faith creates space for fulfillment to manifest naturally. You don't need to monitor fulfillment constantly. That creates tension. Focus on staying aligned, and fulfillment will meet you where you are. Finally, God is asking you to focus on trust. Trust that what He promised is unfolding. Trust that what He started will continue. Trust that nothing meant for you will pass you by. Focus now is not about doing more. It is about being more present, more aware, and more aligned. As we move forward, I will help you understand what fulfillment will look like in the days ahead, so you don't miss it by expecting it to appear in the wrong form. Stay centered. You are in the flow of what God is fulfilling. What fulfillment will look like going forward? Chosen one of the greatest misunderstandings about fulfillment is expecting it to arrive all at once. God rarely works that way. Fulfillment is not a single moment. It is a process that unfolds steadily, layer by layer, in ways that support your peace rather than disrupt it. Knowing what fulfillment will look like going forward helps you recognize it when it appears. Going forward, fulfillment will feel more like stability than excitement. You may notice that life begins to feel more balanced, not perfect, but manageable. You are no longer constantly bracing yourself for what might go wrong. That inner steadiness allows you to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting emotionally. This is not stagnation. This is the foundation. Fulfillment will also bring clearer direction without constant urgency. You may not have every answer, but you will know your next step, and that will be enough. Clarity will come in increments, guiding you as you move, rather than overwhelming you with information you don't need yet. Another way fulfillment will show up is through emotional ease. You will still feel deeply, but emotions will move through you instead of controlling you. You recover more quickly from disappointment. You don't linger as long in self-doubt. You forgive yourself faster. That emotional resilience is a sign that fulfillment is active. You may also notice that opportunities begin to align more naturally, not because you are chasing them, but because you are positioned for them. Conversations flow. Decisions feel simpler. Resistance decreases. When alignment is present, effort feels lighter. Fulfillment will also refine your relationships. Some connections will deepen, others may fade quietly. This is not loss, it is alignment. God adjusts your relational landscape to support your growth. You will feel less obligated to maintain connections that drain you and more drawn to those that bring mutual respect and understanding. Another sign of fulfillment going forward is increased trust in yourself. You trust your discernment. You trust your pacing. You trust that you can handle what comes. This self-trust is not pride. It is confidence grounded in experience and faith. Fulfillment will not remove challenges, but it will change how you face them. Problems will feel less overwhelming because you approach them with clarity rather than fear. You won't rush to fix everything at once. You will address what's in front of you and trust the rest to unfold. You may also notice a shift in your goals. You value quality over quantity, depth over speed, sustainability over recognition. Fulfillment reorients your priorities so your life supports your well-being, not just your ambition. Another important aspect of fulfillment is peace with timing. You stop feeling like you are racing against an invisible clock. You understand that unfolding has its own rhythm, that patience brings relief rather than frustration. Fulfillment will also bring moments of quiet joy, not dramatic happiness, but contentment. A sense that you are where you are meant to be, even as you continue growing. That contentment does not dull your desire, it steadies it. You may also find that your faith feels more integrated into daily life. Prayer becomes conversational. Trust becomes instinctive. You don't separate spiritual life from everyday life. Fulfillment brings wholeness. Another thing to expect is that your energy becomes more consistent. You are not constantly drained or overextended. You know when to engage and when to rest. That balance supports long-term growth. Fulfillment going forward will also bring discernment about what to pursue and what to release. You won't feel guilty for saying no. You won't feel pressured to do everything. You choose intentionally. Let me reassure you of this. Fulfillment will not feel like you've arrived and can stop growing. It will feel like you are finally growing without resistance. That is how you know fulfillment is real. As we come to the end, I want to ground this message one final time and remind you of who you are in this season. Stay with me for the conclusion. Stay focused. Fulfillment is unfolding. Chosen one, as you step away from this message, I want you to carry one truth with you above all else. You are not waiting for fulfillment to arrive. You are already standing within it. What God has been preparing over time is now unfolding steadily, intentionally, and with care. You do not need to rush. You do not need to force clarity. You do not need to prove your faith by exhausting yourself. This season is about staying focused, staying aligned, and staying present. Fulfillment grows best in peace, not pressure. Trust what you are sensing. Trust the calm replacing urgency. Trust the clarity forming quietly. These are not signs of delay. They are confirmations that God's timing is active in your life right now. If doubts try to surface, remember how far you have come. Remember the lessons that shaped you, the healing that strengthened you, and the patience that matured you. God did not bring you this far to abandon the work He began. Stay focused on what is in front of you. Honor the present moment. Protect your peace. When you do, fulfillment will continue to unfold without resistance. Before you go, chosen one, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the Spirit Guide channel if you haven't already, and share this message with other chosen ones who may need this reassurance today. And comment 555 in the comments as a sign that you are aligned with divine timing, focus, and the season of fulfillment God is bringing forth in your life. Walk forward calmly. Walk forward confidently. God is guiding you step by step. Fulfillment is not something you chase. It is something you allow. Stay focused. God is faithful. Is